Bingo. We were called latchkey kids for a reason. For those of you who have never heard that term, or maybe have heard that term and don't know what it means, it refers to my generation, Generation X. And essentially, to boil it down to the simplest of term, the reason why we were latchkey kids is because we were given a key to the house at a very young age and told to let ourselves in and let ourselves out. When we got off the bus, and obviously this does not apply to every member of Gen X, right? But a significant portion of Gen X, when we got off the bus or we walked home from school, there wasn't anybody there to meet us. There wasn't anybody to let us in the house and fix us a snack and make sure we did our homework. Fuck, I didn't see my parents until fucking late at night, right? Both of them worked, and when I say my parents, I left my mom's house when I was 13 and went to go live with my dad and my first stepmother. So my dad and my first stepmother, when I would get home from school, there wasn't anybody there, ever. We saw them maybe at dinner time. And a lot of times we made dinner for ourselves. The latchkey kid phrase comes from the fact that we all had a key to our house and we were all letting ourselves in at a very early age. Very early age. We practically raised ourselves. Now, when I was younger, I would get dropped off at my grandparents' house, and my grandmother would put me on the bus and get me off the bus, and then I would be at my grandmother's house for a few hours until somebody came and picked me up, usually my mom, when she got off of work. But once I left my mother's house and I got out of that situation, that was no longer a thing, right? That was my dad worked, my stepmother worked, my step sister who lived at home worked. That I can remember more hours being in the house without my parents or without my dad and stepmother than with them. And then when my dad got divorced from her and we moved down to southern Indiana, I mean, fucking forget about it. I barely ever saw my father, and that was for the very short period of time that he and I lived down there. Because when I turned 15, my dad looked at me and said, "I'm moving back to Chicago where I can make some decent money again. You coming?" I was like, "What the fuck? I'm 15. What do you mean? Are you giving me the option?" He goes, "You want to stay down here?" And we had this cheap little 2-bedroom shack of a house in Linton, Indiana. He goes, "You want to stay down here? I'll keep the lights on. I suggest you get a job to put food in your belly." My old man had been working since he was 8. So at 15, he looked at me as being lazy because I didn't have a job and was supporting myself yet. And he went back to Chicago. I have been on my own since I was 15. Technically on my own since I was 15. Prior to that, I had been raising myself for a handful of years anyway. Ducking and dodging every fucking fist I could duck and dodge from my mom. Raising myself when was living with my dad and stepmother, and then just my father down in southern Indiana, and then poof, gone. 15 years old. Here's the key. Get a job if you're hungry. I mean, that's just how it was, man. That's how it was. I have been on my own since I was 15 years old. Figure it out. All right. And that's exactly what I've been doing all these decades. Figuring it the fuck out.